Welcome back, another in our series of what's going on in the community. Today we have Donnie Edenfield, currently running for sheriff in Jackson County, Florida, our neighboring county. When we come back, we're going to talk to Donnie about Jackson County, what's going on, perhaps a little bit about what the position of sheriff is all about. You know, many of us go our whole lives dealing with law enforcement, hopefully in a good way, and never really understanding what the sheriff actually does. When we come back, we're going to talk to Donnie about all this and more, and we will be right back. Welcome back. As mentioned, our guest today is Donnie Edenfield. Good to see you, sir.
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Jackson County is going to have a vacant sheriff's position. Lou Roberts, after many years at the Marietta Police Department and then at the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, has decided to retire. And there are several people running for that office. Tell me a little bit about what's going on in Jackson County before we even talk about the sheriff's race. What's new and exciting in Jackson County?
Well, we're getting a new K-8 school out of Marietta, which is a buzz. Everybody's talking about that.
Yeah, on that, and I'm glad you said that, because I always totally forget about that unless I drive out that side of town. That's huge. Is your overall population in the greater Marietta area growing to support that kind of a thing, or is this looking towards the future?
Yeah, pretty much toward the future, and consolidating a couple schools that were older, and they were able to secure funding, and it's actually going to be a K through 8, which around 1,800 students, which is for this area. That's a large school, absolutely.
That's a large. You know, we see the population or the class sizes diminish as they get a little bit older. In other words, there's fewer seniors than there are freshmen in the high school. I would think that probably the same thing is true in the elementary schools, only because of attrition, people moving away, that kind of thing. Until we start getting some real economic development in the area, start bringing in some businesses, we're really not going to entertain getting a large influx of new people into the area. But it's a tough nut.
That's correct. A lot of people don't realize, but our school system has less students now than it did back in the 70s. I mean, that's saying a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you look at the list of businesses that are no longer was it Unimat, the washing machine place. You had
Russell Corporation.
You had the furniture company.
Chipley Electronics.
Yeah. A lot of empty buildings around the industrial park, right?
Oh yeah, I remember when I was a teenager, that industrial park was full of employers that employed people.
The upside. Now, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Now our biggest employer is probably the state prison system.
No doubt.
State job, yeah.
But the interesting thing is that you've got Catalyst out there. Dennis Rudd running Catalyst. They've got 400 or 500 employees running 3 shifts. And what they do is they print fabrics for shutterflies. So if you've got a picture of your pet dachshund and you want it on a pillow, you send it in, and that's where that actually takes place. I just found out this last week I guess it was, that you have a helicopter manufacturer right there at the industrial park, Safari Helicopters.
Sure do. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. You're running for the position of sheriff. That's a pretty weighty position. That is the chief law enforcement officer of the land in that particular county. Obviously, you have state's attorney's office that's part of that equation. Talk a little bit about what the sheriff actually does in any given county in Florida.
Well, they're a constitutional officer, actually part of the state's judicial branch, and they're in charge of a number of things when it comes to law enforcement within the county. Chapter 30 in Florida statute, Chapter 30 breaks it down into detail as to the duties and responsibilities, to which there are many, obviously. Some counties it entails running the corrections or the jail system, which Jackson County, our jail system is ran by the county commission, so the sheriff's not really deeply involved with that.
But now, do your staff work at the jail, or is that privatized, or how does that work?
No, the county commission is in charge of the jail, and it's ran by county employees.
Okay.
We have a jail administrator.
Gotcha.
And obviously they answer to the county administrator. So it's ran by the county, just not under the sheriff's umbrella.
Sure. How many employees, ballpark, does the sheriff's office enjoy in Jackson County? I would imagine that's a fairly large group of people.
Probably around 70,
Okay.
I would guess, yeah.
Okay, and how many of those are sworn officers, roughly, even percentage-wise?
Probably about 85% or 90%,
Gotcha.
you would think.
Then you got administration, obviously.
Yeah, and you have support staff, administration, non-sworn, civilian jobs, yeah.
Yeah. Tough job. It's, to me, I've always looked at law enforcement at any level, whether you're the sheriff or whether you're that brand new patrolman. You're in a no-win situation. You err on the side of caution. You try to do the darndest, the best that you can, but you're going to get faulted by half the people, half of the time. You go left, and they expect you to go right, and vice versa. Jackson County, for the most part, over the years, has enjoyed a good reputation as a law enforcement organization. Had some news we had some information in the news lately. We're not going to go into that, but obviously it was a sort of a stain on Jackson County and the SO in particular. But I know that that's being addressed. Is there any of that you want to talk about, or would it be best not to even go there?
I think it's important that we restore the trust of the citizens and law enforcement in general, not just Jackson County, but as a nation, as a county, as a whole. And I feel the best way to do that is, number one, priority must be those you serve. I mean, they have to be top priority. A public servant's one. By definition, if you want to look at the definition, it's an appointed or an elected official that works for the government. But for me, a public servant's one that's going to put their others before self. You gotta. That's the whole thing. You got to put other people ahead of your own personal thoughts and feelings, and look out for the best of the public. When you start to do that, personally, I think that's the biggest step you could make in regaining the trust of the citizens, and not just talking about doing it, but showing them that you're going to do it.
Well, and you mentioned that working for the government. We are the government. Taxpayers are the government. When you say something is government funded or tax funded, it means that you and I as taxpayers are taking it on the chin and funding that. So we as taxpayers, how many times in your law enforcement career have you stopped somebody or addressed somebody in some way and they said, hey, I pay your salary? I know you just love to hear that.
Yeah, you hear it all the time. They pay your salary. And I help pay it too, You and I both pay taxes.
No doubt.
Absolutely. But it's a tough job, and it's not for everybody, obviously. But those of us who do it, we don't do it for the money. You do it for the love of people and your community, and that's what it's about. No one goes to the Law Enforcement Academy with the mindset, I'm going to get out and make a lot of money. No. It's all about your community and caring about it and investing in your community and giving back. That's what it's about.
Nothing glamorous about that job. You guys get called out there, you work your shift, and then you've got 2 or 3 hours of paperwork if there was a lot of activity on your shift. Again, nothing glamorous, nothing that's going to make you a wealthy person, unless wealth to you means being able to serve the public, because that is what it's all about. You have to have a servant's heart, a servant's mind to be able to do that job safely, effectively, and to the nth degree that's expected of you. What are some of the challenges that Jackson County face right now that you as sheriff can have a hand in perhaps making better?
Probably one at the top of the list would be staff shortages. With officers, it's hard to keep, like we just talked about, it's not a glamorous job. We all know that. It's not going to pay a lot, and we all know that. But also, these guys and ladies that go to law enforcement academies and with the mindset, I'm going to be a deputy sheriff in my home county, they don't do that with money in mind. They do it, hey, I want to help my community, I want to give back, I want to make it better, because biblically, we're all called to be servants of others. So when these guys go through the training and come out, I think it's really important that we make these people feel, or these employees, these deputies, feel appreciated and let them know, show them that they're making a difference in people's lives. There's a lot more to being a sheriff or a sheriff's deputy than putting people in jail. That's such a small part of what we do. You got to be there to pick people up when they're down, and don't take it as Donnie's, oh, he's soft. You know, that's not the case. If you see an opportunity to help someone, you got to take it. And I promise you, we all have opportunities every day. We may not seize the opportunity and capitalize on it, but we all have opportunities on a daily basis to help other people. But you take a deputy that's straight out of the academy in his early or her early 20s, and you let them see that they're making a difference, not in other people's lives, and that in our community. And so you start giving back to the community and serving the community. And serving the community is just, it's more than, answering a call. It's doing things on your own time, giving back, helping people, helping organizations, your church, civic clubs, athletic teams, or volunteering with a kid. And we have a lot of kids out there that don't have a father figure in the home. I mean, you start you start investing in people's lives, everything starts coming back. I can assure you. But when you do that deputy starts seeing like, hey, I'm making a difference. Of course, money matters, okay? But they didn't come there for the money in the beginning. But you start seeing that you've made a difference in this person's life, in this family's life, in this child's life. And that's worth more than money, to me.
I know that many of these relatively smaller rural counties, such as Jackson, Washington, Holmes, and the rest of the Panhandle, you have a lot of law enforcement officers that come to these counties because of the shortage, because it is easier to get a job, and then they're sort of lured away by the bigger money in some of the larger municipalities, South Florida, up into Alabama, Georgia. Do we find that in Jackson County just like we do over here in Washington County?
Yeah, it happens. You have deputies that's going to leave and go to other counties over a $2,000 a year raise. What you got to look at, though, when I move to this other county, I'm going to move my whole family. Cost of living in the other county. I mean, if you go down south, I work with a big agency. My full-time job is as a regional training director with my agency. We're statewide, and a lot of the officers that I work with, they'll move a lot to the northern part of the state because of cost of living expenses. I mean, you can go down south and make $10,000 more a year. It probably costs you $12,000 more a year in the cost of living. But I'm telling you, Jackson County is one of, if not the greatest county in the state of Florida. I mean, it's rural. It's family oriented. It's small town. You're a short drive from the beaches. You're a short drive from a bigger town if you want to go out. And there's a lot of things in Jackson County. We have Florida Caverns. We have the Chipley River. We have Lake Seminole. We have the Apalachicola River. I mean, there's a lot of things that Jackson County has going for it.
Yeah, if you're an outdoorsman particularly.
Oh, absolutely.
Now, is there a challenge, probably can answer the question myself, but I would imagine that there's a challenge being that Jackson County is fragmented. You have a lot of municipalities and you've got a lot of high schools, for instance. So let's talk about the SROs. You know, the state has mandated a certain amount of school safety. I don't know that they've mandated an SRO in every school necessarily, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what challenge does that present to the sheriff's office and as well as the county commission?
Well, last year, the Jackson County School Board chose to start their own police department. So Jackson County has a Jackson County School Board Police Department. And yes, there is a requirement that there must be an armed officer in every school. And so the school board runs that. And there's a couple police officers that's still fulfilling contracts, I believe, around the county. But I'm pretty certain by start of next school year, it will be a Jackson County School Police Department deputy in each school. But we also have our school board and our sheriff's department are working together and training guardians, which is another option of having someone in the school that's armed. A guardian's sort of like an armed security guard. And the sheriff's department is required by statute to provide training for that. I've got a good relationship with the school board and the school board police department. After forming the department, I was approached about helping do some training. So I help or provide the firearms training, taser training, and training of that sort to the police department, the school board police department. Obviously at no cost. That's what I do,
Well, and not to interrupt you, but that's an interesting situation. So that takes a little bit of the strain, financially anyway, off of the sheriff's office, although you're probably getting less money for not providing those SROs going forward because of this new organization. What is the impact, or do you know what the impact is fiscally on the sheriff or the Jackson County Sheriff's Office because of the county and the school district taking over that SRO situation?
Well, obviously the school board, was paying for those deputies.
Yeah.
And when they decided to start their own agency, the sheriff department ceased getting paid, and I'm pretty certain that the deputies they had in those spots were able to fill certain positions within the agency. I don't think anyone lost their job over it. I do know one or two that left the sheriff department and went to work for the school board police, which made sense. I mean, our resource deputies are vital parts of law enforcement. They're vital parts of our school because they provide a connection between our children and law enforcement. It's huge. It's huge.
It's much bigger than just that protective piece.
Oh,
You're exactly
absolutely,
right.
absolutely.
Role models, it has that non-adversarial relationship between law enforcement and the students. Many times the only relationship that they ever have in a non-adversarial situation, all they know is when the popo comes, you got trouble. But if you're able to have that discourse, some of that open communication with that law enforcement officer at school in a non-adversarial condition, I can't help but think that that's exactly right. It's perfect.
Absolutely. Because like you say, or a lot of people's interaction with law enforcement outside in the free world, sometimes in a negative manner, or even if it's in a positive manner, it's the police. But when these kids get to interact with these officers at school, and Jackson County School Board Police, they've got a fine group of guys. And they care about the kids and they interact with them well, and they know these kids. It's not just a kid; they know their names, and that's huge. Because sometimes there's things going on at home that kid probably don't feel safe telling anyone, but they'll tell one of those officers. But yeah, it's a huge plus.
One thing that's always in anybody's mind when there's a change in regime, when there's a change in management, and certainly Sheriff's Office, police departments, no different. When you take office, what can you say now to reassure those who are doing their jobs properly that they're going to keep their jobs? A lot of people think that you're going to go in there and slash and burn, that you're going to be, starting fresh, be sort of counterproductive for you as a manager, obviously. Tell me your thoughts about that.
There's things in place that prevent that from happening. Laws. Is
that civil service?
Yes. You can come in as a new sheriff and you just can't come in and say, Paul, you're no longer needed, go home. You can't do that. You have to have cause. Obviously, as if elected, I would come in and evaluate the situation, and let's look at everybody's job. What do you do? What's your responsibilities here? And review policy. Let's see if there's a policy governing things that need to be governed, and are those policies being followed? Policy's no good if it's not being followed. But to answer to your question, I don't have anybody's name on a chopping block. I want to serve this community. That's my goal, and I want those who want to serve this community. I want you to stay, and we're gonna make Jackson County a better place to be.
You have been pretty active in the community your entire career, but here recently you've been doing a series of meet and greets. We've seen some of that in the news. How is that being received?
It's huge. I'm blessed, let me put it that way. We had one in Alford a few weeks ago, or maybe a month ago. It had a good turnout. And obviously these meet and greets are just an opportunity for those who may not know me, may not know anything about me, to come out and let me introduce myself, talk one-on-one, or listen to what I got to say, throw a little bit out there about what my vision is. And we had one just this past weekend in Grand Ridge at the Clark Barn, and we had an enormous turnout. It was over 200 people there, which was awesome, absolutely. Got to meet some new people, some people I'd never met before in my life, some awesome people. There's a lot of good people in Jackson County, a lot of great people and I was humbled, I'll put it that way. I was humbled by the turnout.
Just as we offer these informal conversations to all declared candidates every election cycle as a way for the public to get to know the candidate a little bit more, we suggest that you vote for the candidate of your choice for the right reasons. It's not a popularity contest. It's not because he's a good old boy and he needs a job, which how many times I've heard that in my lifetime, but rather vote for that candidate who says the things that you want to hear, whose lifestyle better or most favorably reflects your own, whose policies and the things that they espouse most closely follow your own personal doctrine. Again, you seem to be being well received by the public. What's your motivation? I know you want to serve, and we've already covered that part of it. But what's your end game? What would you like to bring to the office of Sheriff of Jackson County after you're elected?
Obviously, number one priority is let the community and our citizens know that you are first. That's what we're here for. We talked about earlier, who the sheriff answers to. He answers to the governor. But but in my opinion, that sheriff department belongs to the citizens of Jackson County. I don't care how you cut it, how you look at it. That sheriff answers to the community, and obviously that's who votes you in. But number one, make service to that community number one, and there's a lot of things that I would like to do to make things better. There's a few things. Number one, Jackson County has we're one of the leading states in teen traffic fatalities and per capita, and that's not good, Paul. Not good at all. And what I want to do is educate our kids on how to drive. And that sounds like, well, they all know how to drive, but not really. And when we lose our kids, it's not caused by drugs or alcohol. It's not speeding. It's not drunk driving, but it's things like excessive speed, distracted driving, no safety belt, not wearing a seat belt. Those things are corrected through education. If elected as sheriff, every kid in our county will have the opportunity to attend a teen drivers program. Whether they do or not, that'll be between them and their parents, but they will be afforded that opportunity. And there's a program out there sponsored by the Florida Sheriff's Association that's the Teen Drivers Challenge. And it's taught in a number of counties around the state. And it's a slight variation of the law enforcement Drivers Academy that I've been teaching for 15 years. But it just teaches some basic fundamentals of driving that a lot of kids just don't know. Teaches them how to change a tire, how to check the oil, just a number of things. And there's benefits other than your kid learning some driving skills. You may get a cheaper rate with your insurance. That's one thing that I definitely want to work on, because that's huge. A couple years ago, a lot of these accidents happen around graduation time. And a couple years ago, I decided I wanted to do something, do my part to help keep these kids safe around the graduation nights. So I started doing some fundraising for each senior class in the county through a concealed weapons safety course. Obviously I'm a firearms instructor, an NRA instructor, and I teach these classes as fundraisers and donate all the funds to the senior classes. And I offer that to each senior class in the county every year. Don't cost them a dime. You know, I provide all the supplies and everything and put it on. And usually on average we donate about probably $8 to $9 grand a year to the 5 senior classes in the county. So I mean, that's just trying to do my part, you know.
Good stuff. Listen, every time we have a candidate come on, we allow them to look right into the camera lens, speak to, in your case, to the citizens of Jackson County, to the voters of Jackson County, and tell them exactly why they should vote for you as sheriff of Jackson County.
As sheriff of Jackson County, I can assure you that I will treat every citizen in the county with the utmost respect and integrity, and you will be served. Most people want to be treated equal. They don't want special treatment. But every citizen will receive the same treatment, the same service from the Sheriff's Department as the next person. You can rest assured that Jackson County is true to my heart. I've been here, born and raised in Jackson County. I'll be 49 years old in a couple months, and I've been here all my life. My generations, my mom and dad and their parents were all, I've been right here my entire life. I was educated here, graduated Chipley College here. So nothing means more to me than our community and our county. And I think we can do some things better, and with your vote and support, we can make that happen.
I appreciate you taking the time today.
Best
of luck going forward.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that I may not have asked you that I'd like for you to come back? All candidates get a chance to come on the first time, then again before the primary, and then again before the general, if you go to the general. So you'll have that opportunity. So is there anything off the top of your head that we may have forgot to discuss? We kind of covered a whole gamut there.
Yeah, get out and vote, man. Vote. If you're not going to vote for Donnie Edenfield, that's okay. Vote. Register to vote. I don't care. I mean, I'm a registered, or I'm on the Republican ticket, obviously. So I will be on the Republican ticket for Jackson County Sheriff in August. But register to vote and vote. We live in the greatest country in the world. There's no doubt. We have our issues from time to time, but I can assure you, there's nowhere better than the great United States of America to live and to raise a family. And there are so many men and women that died and shed blood for us to be able to choose who our leaders are. There's countries, they don't have that opportunity. So for us to not go to the polls and vote, and they make it so easy, you know, early voting by mail, I mean, you can vote on a Saturday. So get out and vote, guys. Have a say in who your leaders are, and choose wisely. If you don't know, and I talk to people daily, and they'll say, well, I don't really know either of you. If you don't know either candidate, just do your research. Do your research and go with your heart and pray about it.
Our guest today has been Donnie Edenfield, currently running for sheriff in Jackson County, Florida. As we admonish you every show, register to vote, as Donnie so eloquently put. Register to vote and vote for the candidate of your choice, but for the right reasons. Do your research, as Donnie points out, and get out there and do your part. Don't be a part of the problem, be a part of the solution. Register to vote and vote every chance you get. We'll be right back.